Oh, darn it. I forgot to get my notebook. Sheesh. Okay. Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Happy Tuesday. Way too much. All right, beautiful people. Make sure I find my place in here. Place. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It is January the 4th, 2022. Day 345 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive count, day 1013, 1013. Today, y'all, we're going to read in the book of 4th Maccabees, chapter 2 and chapter 3. And then we're going to go over to Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power, and we're going to finish up, finally, chapter 13, where it's talking about the power twins, praying and adding fasting to it to multiply and amplify your results. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Yeah, I had to charge my mouse. We don't talk about Bruno. No. We don't talk about Bruno. All right, yeah, I'm bringing it up. Oh, it's here. Okay. All right, beautiful people. A call for a wholehearted commitment. Remember, it is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, which is also called the Shema chapter. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, your God, commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah, your God, as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is God alone. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road and when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah, your God will soon bring you into the land that he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, Be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, when your children ask you, in the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given unto us. All right, beautiful people. Yahuwah is one. Shalom, shalom. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Nikki, great day, great day. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and go over here first. Let me pull this up so it's already up on my screen. Okay. Got that there. Now let's blow y'all back up. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's go over here to 4th Maccabees. I hope everybody got some good rest last night. Okay. All right, y'all. 4th Maccabees chapter 2. And what wonder, remember, we'll just do a quick recap. Remember yesterday, we only read the first chapter when we started this because we finished up the last chapter. But he is giving wisdom on how, pretty much in a nutshell, just how to stand strong, right? How to stand strong in the face of adversity. And he was using an example of the woman and her 7 sons and how all her 7 sons were killed right before her eyes, and she had to watch every single one of them. But he's going through the type of strength that they had, right? So chapter 1 of 4th Maccabees is extremely good. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, so we pick up in chapter 2. And what wonder if the lusts of the soul, after participation with what is beautiful, are frustrated on this ground. Therefore, the temperate Joseph is praised, in that by reasoning he subdued on reflection the indulgence of sense. For although young and ripe for sexual intercourse, he abrogated by reasoning the stimulus of his passions. And it is not merely the stimulus of sensual indulgence, but that of every desire that reasoning is able to master, right? So if you remember the story about Joseph, on how every time Potiphar's wife was coming at him, he chose to run instead of staying there, being tempted by her beauty and her sliding you windows and trying to trick him into bed, right? He used his reasoning, right? And he got himself out of there. For instance, the Torah says, you shall not lust after your neighbor's woman, nor anything that belongs to your neighbor. Now, then, since it is the Torah which has forbidden us to desire, I shall much the more easily persuade you that reasoning is able to govern our lust, just as it does the affections, which are impediments to justice, Since in what way is a solitary eater and a glutton and a hold on, let me go back. Okay. Since in what way is a solitary eater and a glutton and a drunkard reclaimed, unless it be clear that reasoning is lord of the passions? A man, therefore, who regulates his course by the Torah, even if he be a lover of money, straightway puts force upon his own disposition, lending to the needy without interest, and canceling the debt of the incoming Sabbath. And should a man be parsimonious, I'm sorry, that's not parsimonious, parsimonious, okay. And should a man be parsimonious, he is ruled by the Torah, acting through reasoning, so that he does not glean his harvest crops, nor vintage. And in reference to other points, we may perceive that it is reasoning that conquers his passions. For the Torah conquers even affection towards parents, not surrendering virtue on their account, and it prevails over marriage love, condemning it when transgressing the Torah. And it lords over the love of parents towards their children, for they punish them for vice, and it domineers over the intimacy of friends, reproving them when wicked. And think it not a strange assertion that reasoning can, in behalf of the Torah, conquer even enmity. It allows not to cut down the cultivated It allows not to cut down the cultivated herbage of an enemy, but preserves it from the destroyers and collects their fallen ruins. And reason appears to be master of the more violent passions, as love of empire and empty boasting and slander. For the temperate understanding repels all of these malignant passions, as does wrath, for it masters even this, right? So if you're keeping up, just remember it's talking about how reasoning, or actually understanding, if you have understanding about something, it's a lot easier to keep or not to keep certain things, right? When we understand Yahuwah's Torah, it's easier for us to keep it. When we don't understand it, we just think it's a bunch of laws and rules that are holding us in bondage, right? And that's the teaching that the church normally gives. Even a lot of Hebrew Israelites sort of they teach it a little bit different than the church does, but it's the way they teach it is like physically, religiously sticking to everything like this. Don't even think about it, just do it, right? You really should think about why you're doing everything that Yah has commanded you to do and not to do. There's a reason behind it. And by understanding, when you understand, that's when the freedom comes. Like, remember when I told you this, shucks, this was like during Passover time. Remember how I told during Passover time, I was telling y'all about when we first, a few years back, when we first started keeping Passover, and it was like, okay, we got to do this and we got to do this. We got to make sure this is done by this time. Like it was so tiring trying to keep to everything as I was being taught or as I understood it at that time, that it was like, man, bump all of this. Jen, Shalom, Trina, hey girl, hey, Betwabu. It was like, man, bump this, right? And so then I started to kind of revert back to the church mind, say, look, we ain't under the law no more, right? But that was because I was getting frustrated and I didn't understand, right? But it was one of them times doing fasting where Yahuwah just gave me a little bit more light, and he just kind of, girl, let me bump you over another notch so you can really see what's going on here. I'm like, oh, right. So now it's just like, man, it, it's so much relief not having to not that I don't keep Torah, but I keep Torah. But I keep Torah with understanding, right? And by keeping it with understanding, I don't push rules on other people or try to push something down their throat where on the surface it kind of looks like that, but not really, right? You don't really have the proper understanding. It's almost like parables. It's like wisdom hidden in plain sight, right? You can't that look, that is a secret. That's the secret of all secrets, right? hiding information in plain sight. And you would probably remember from the New Testament where Jesus was telling his disciples, well, he had to pull his disciples to the side and explain the parables to them, right? Parables is wisdom encapsulated or put in such a form where you can give it to those who are woke and they'll catch it. But for those who are still sleeping, they are none the wiser. And oh, these are just good stories. I love these Bible stories. No, my G. The wisdom is encapsulated in the Bible stories, right? The wisdom was given. A story was created from the beginning to the end to put around them so you can catch the principles, right? From the beginning to the end, Florida. From the beginning to the end. Remember, I'm telling y'all that. Pay attention. Pay attention. Look, so, but those who are understanding a little bit more, you don't necessarily need the parables explained to you. I mean, you do. There is a point where understanding will come. But now they can give a speech and they can speak in code word with parables or whatever system y'all set up so you can freely get the information now without the fear of the people that you don't want to get it, because you can give it to them too, but they won't understand it. That's what the Bible is all the way through and through, right? People who just don't get it. Remember Philip? And I think it was Philip, and it was a guy on the chariot. He showed up, he was teleporting, transporting himself, right? Showed up to the little dude in the chariot. He said, man, you don't understand what you're reading? He said, well, nobody's taught me. He's sitting there reading scripture, don't know what he's reading, till Philip shows up and give him understanding, right? It's like a closed book. You ever seen the book of Eli? Remember how everybody was trying to get their hands on that book, and finally the big dude at the end, when he finally got that book, it was blank. He was like, it's a book of blank pages, and he was extremely furious. But his blind wife, who was literally physically blind, she came in, when she put her hands on the book, because he was pissed, and she came in there like, well, what is your mad for now? And she put her hands on the book. And when she put her hands on the book, she realized that the book had braille on all the pages. And she, although physically blinded, could not see out of her eyes, she was able to see by putting her hands on it, right? That right there is a like my mama said, now that'll preach. That right there, that scene from the book of Eli will preach a whole sermon to you. It's almost like a parable. Those that's fighting to see, those who aren't I ain't gonna say not worthy, but those that shouldn't have it won't get it. You just have to encapsulate the message in such a way. That's the secret of the sages, right? That's that you got secret societies. And granted, when we see and hear about secret societies, it's kind of like this good old boys club or whatever. No, you can't get in, but you can get in. You can get in. Nope, 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 nope. How you look? You following out? Yeah, you can get in. We think of secret societies like that, right? But the real secret is hidden in plain sight, right? Think about it. Think about it, people. All of us who've been reading the Bible for ages, right? Some things we just didn't understand to Yahuwah gave us the information, right? Oh, but the book is free to all. You can go buy this book. You'll find the book in the hotels where people getting they sending on. They leave you one, right? Nobody ever picks it up. They don't understand it until you do. And enlightenment comes, right? So it's like truth hidden in plain sight all the time, right? The message is everywhere, but you can't see it until you can. And when you can see it everywhere, right? And sometimes I could be speaking, some people may just not understand. That's why we don't really need to hide some things. We can just speak it. And if you're aware of it, if you can see it, you're just going to catch it. You're going to catch what I'm throwing out there, right? So it's that same thing. So hold on. It said something out here where it brought me to that. Let me find my spot. Oh, it's talking about. Let me just go back. Let me just go back. Okay. For the Torah, yeah, Dana, you're right. When you see it and you see it everywhere, then you can't unsee it. It's impossible to unsee it. It's impossible to unsee it. Okay. For the Torah conquers even affection towards parents. It's like when you really get the Torah into you, it begins to bring alive those unseen principles that's in kind of like plain language for everybody to see. But for those who have really put themselves on a path to discipline themselves and to really out of a pure heart and out of love really get in there, it's really those people who they begin to get glimpses of light, and the light begins to come on for them, to where it's people who just, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. Read the Torah every day, keep to the commands. Okay, we're doing this. Okay, when is this gonna be overlooked? I got a date. I got some booty waiting for me about 2 a.m. Oh yeah, okay, what? Okay, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to do it. Okay, but I can do this. I'll bring my sacrifice out there, but I got to get in this, right? Those people normally they don't get enlightenment because they're playing around, right? It's only those who have committed themselves to discipline. Josiah, shalom, right? Okay. So the unseen principles, and although people call them unseen principles, different things, it's when you talk to them, you know exactly what they're talking about if you understand. We may just term it a little bit different, but you can see it working. For the Torah conquers even affection towards parents, not surrendering virtue on their account, and it prevails over marriage love, condemning it when transgressing the Torah, and it lords over the love of parents towards their children. That's mine, son. Thank you. Just go get you one. Thank you. Oh, well, wait till you come out. And it lords over the love of parents toward their children, for they punish them for vice, and it domineers over the intimacy of friends, reproving them when wicked. It's like that inner correction, or your conscience. It's literally talking about like your conscience getting a hold of you. Like it's like that inner guide that helps you. Don't do that. And if you do it, you feel it. You immediately feel it, right? Yeah, your conscience will punish you, or that feeling of condemnation, right? And it lords over the love of parents toward their children, for they punish them for vice, and it domineers over the intimacy of friends, reproving them when wicked, and think it not a strange I'm sorry, and think it not a strange assertion that reasoning can, in behalf of the Torah, conquer even enmity. It allows not to cut down the cultivated herb of an enemy, but preserves it from the destroyers and collects their fallen ruins, right? Not to do the scriptures where it tells you don't do wrong to your enemies. Like if your enemy is thirsty, give them a cup of water there by heaping hot coals upon their head, right? By not treating them, dishing them out the same behavior or things that they've dished out to you to hurt you. Torah reasoning keeps you from doing those things. It keeps you on that right track, right? Even when people deserve it, right? You can choose to show them mercy. And reason appears to be master of the more violent passions, as love of empire and empty boasting and slander. For the temperate understanding repels all of these malignant passions, as it does wrath, for it masters even this. Thus Moshe, or Moses, when angered against Dathan and Abiram, or Byram, did nothing to them in wrath, but regulated his anger by reasoning. For the temperate mind is able, as I said, to be superior to the passions, and to transfer some and destroy others. For why else does our most wise father, Yaakov or Jacob, blame Shimon and Levi for having irrationally slain the whole race of the um Shechem's Shechem folk? Remember when they raped their sister? When he raped their sister. For why else does our most wise father Jacob blame Simeon and Levi for having irrationally slain the whole race of the Shechem, their family? That I'm saying it wrong. It says Shechemim, saying, "Cursed be their anger." For if reasoning did not possess the power of subduing angry affections, he would not have spoken thus. For at the time when Elohim created man, he implanted within him his passions and moral nature. And at that time, he enthroned above all the holy Oh, that probably should be a comma there because I was reading it wrong. Okay. And at that time, he enthroned above all the holy leader mind through the meter. I'm still reading that wrong because that don't make sense. Hold on. Oh, okay. Read it wrong. Still read it wrong. I didn't read it wrong 3 different times in 3 different ways. Okay. Okay. For at the time when Elohim created man, he implanted within him his passions and moral nature. And at that time he enthroned above he enthroned above all the holy leader mind through the medium of the senses, right? Meaning he made the mind the leader, right? Up here, the mind is the leader, right? And when you act with reasoning, you control all the senses and everything else that's flowing out of here. You can control the anger. Marie, that's Fabu, right? Which this kind of goes into what we've been talking about, the aligning of the chakras, right? Getting all these tenets under control, getting all these enemies of the temple under control, right? Either they're gonna line up and they're gonna keep to the commands of Yah, right? So we can get that outpouring, that light in the holy of holies always there flowing, the light ever burning. Either we're gonna keep it under control and we're gonna guard the Torah in the most holy place, so wisdom can continue to flow out and Yah can continue to reside with his people, come live with us, right? To have that happening all the time, we got to get this under control, right? So this is made the leader of all of this. The head is the leader of the body, right? And you can see the head being the leader of the body everywhere. All right. And he gave a Torah to this mind by living according to which it will maintain a temperate and just and good and manly reign. How then a man may say, if reasoning be master of the passions, has no control over forgetfulness and ignorance. Chapter 3, 4th Maccabees. The argument is exceedingly ridiculous, for reasoning does not appear to bear sway over its own affections, but over those of the body, in such a way as that any one of you may not be able to root out desire, but reasoning will enable you to avoid being enslaved to it. That was good. Let me read it again. Hold on. Y'all gotta charge my mouse up too. Okay. The argument is exceedingly ridiculous, for reasoning does not appear to bear sway over its own affections, but over those of the body, in such a way as that any one of you may not be able to root out desire, but reasoning will enable you to avoid being enslaved by it. All right, man. Love you. Y'all drive safe. All right, son. Look like twins walking out of here. Baby, you don't have facial hair. A lot of facial hair.
It's coming.
It's coming in. Don't worry.
Let it go.
I think it is. It's over here under my foot. You see it?
Look, people, cut your nails. Don't have no long nails. That's nasty. All right, come on. Don't bother y'all. Go.
Boy, I tell you the randomness sometimes. Love you too. Lock that door. One may not be able to root out anger from the soul, but it is possible to withstand anger. Any one of you may not be able to eradicate malice, but reasoning has force to work with you to prevent you yielding to malice. For reasoning is not an eradicator, but an antagonist of the passions. And this may be more clearly comprehended from the thirst of King David. For after David had been attacking the Philistines the whole day, he, with the soldiers of his nation, slew many of them. Then, when evening came, sweating and very weary, he came to the royal tent about which the entire host of our ancestors was encamped. Now, all the rest of them were at supper, but the king, being very much athirst, although he had numerous springs, could not by their means quench his thirst, but a certain irrational longing For the water in the enemy's camp grew stronger and fierce upon him and consumed him with languish. Wherefore his bodyguards, being troubled at this longing of the king, two valiant young soldiers, referencing the desire of the king, put on their panoplies, and taking a pitcher, got over the ramparts of the enemies, and unperceived by the guardians of the gate, they went through the whole camp of the enemy in quest. And having boldly discovered the fountain, they filled out of it the draught for the king. But he, though parched with thirst, reasoned that a draught reputed of equal value to blood would be terribly dangerous to his soul. So if y'all remember that story, when his two soldiers went out to get that, when they came back with the water, he was like, man, he doing all this. He thirsted for the water in the enemy's camp. The two men risked their lives to go get it, got in there unseen by the enemy, came back out with a pitcher full of water for King David. And then King David was like, you know what? Far be it from me that I drank the water that you risked your lives for, and poured it out. I'm like, but I get what he was saying, right? But he, though parched with thirst, reasoned that a draught reputed of equal value to blood would be terribly dangerous to his soul. Wherefore, setting up reason in opposition to his desire, he poured out the draught to Elohim, right? And pour out some for the homies. For the temperate mind has power to conquer the pressure of the passions and to quench the fires of excitement and to wrestle down the pains of the body, however excessive, and through excellency of reasoning to abominate all the assaults of the passions. But the occasion now invites us to give an illustration of temperate reasoning from history. For at a time when our fathers were in passion of undisturbed peace through obedience to the Torah, and were prosperous, so that Seleucus Nicanor, the king of Asia, both assigned them money for divine service and accepted their form of government. Then certain persons, bringing in new things contrary to the general unanimity in various ways, fell into calamities. And that is the end of chapter 3. Isn't it amazing how this is lining up with what we're reading? We're actually learning about how to, this is more so like we're in a chapter about prayer and adding fasting to it, and how it brings things under control, like the passions and different addictions and things you have. And then how we flowing through Maccabees. And I don't know, I've listened to Maccabees, but reading through this out loud with y'all is like the first time, it's almost like the first time I'm seeing it again. Because I think when I listened to it, I wasn't paying attention to it, because I'm like, all of this is in Maccabees, like the fourth book. I don't remember reading. Well, when I listened to it, I don't remember hearing this. Probably because I was distracted, right, doing other things. So sometimes it's good to actually sit down and actually read so you can get an understanding. But the fourth book of Maccabees, it almost seems like another book of Proverbs to me, right? The wisdom that's in here. But I brought that up because isn't it amazing how we're going through that particular chapter and how it's kind of lining up? Like it's almost like reiterating what we're learning there, right? And also, now that we done added the chakra piece, the understanding of the chakra piece to it, it just gives us understanding from different areas. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop on over here. We definitely gonna finish chapter 13 today. I'm gonna move this forward, but I'm gonna be to knocked it over. We definitely gonna finish chapter 13 today. But also, depending on where we're at 34 minutes now. I may share a little bit more. Marie asked a really good question, right? And I respond. I'm not sure if you saw my response in your email. I was responding to you while I was on the treadmill. It's probably dangerous. Um, but I may address it because it was a good question that you had asked. But it seems like you doing a little bit more research, which is good. So yeah, Marie. So you was like right on point with what you were asking me. But I think I probably need to bring a little bit more clarity to that seed. Although we are in a couple of days, somebody might have that question today. So we'll see how much time I got left, and then we'll hit upon it. Anybody start going to look up chrism oil yet? I knew some people would, right? And you should. You really should, right? Because there's a lot of information out there. I'm like, this information has been out here forever. Like the medical field, different places. I'm like, why are we the last to know? Probably because Yahuwah is waking up his people, right? While the whole world has benefited from the wisdom, his very own people at the tail end of it now, right? After the nations have been blessed by Abraham, by his children, by his lineage, right? All the wisdom that Yah has given unto us, right? They benefited from it now. It's like, okay, sons and daughters, we're gonna go ahead and take y'all off restriction now. So we'll go ahead and open your eyes back to all the information that you once knew. Okay, Trina. Okay, yeah, call me. Call me when you get off. Okay, you was dropping your kids off, Maureen. Okay, we'll chat. We'll chat about it. Okay, so we're at towards the end of the chapter, and we stopped at the section where it's talking about ways to fast. We just looked at a 40-day fast that Jesus went on to prepare to confront the devil's temptations. But there are several ways to fast. The one I have found to be the most practical and effective for the person carrying on in today's busy society is the common 3-day fast. Oh, that's good. It's called a cycle of 72s, right? I probably should post that for you. I'm going to post that. I'm glad he mentioned this particular one because I was looking at, matter of fact, and I think I may have posted one by Dr. Mindy too. That first reference, I think she was talking about the 3-day fast. The 3-day fast is real powerful, especially if you're just starting off. Now, I would tell you if you wanna get right to it, go for a water fast. But sometimes people have to work themselves up to water fast. Although water fast is one of the most powerful, but you can also get a fast even more powerful than that, and it's called a dry fast, meaning you don't consume anything. I've done a 3-day dry fast. Well, almost. It was like 2.5 days. Yeah, like 2.5 days, right? But that was my first time doing the dry fast, and I was shocked that I made it that far, right? And I just kind of broke it with an apple. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the 72-hour fast or the 3-day fast, it is really powerful, and it would be wise if you could, as you begin to build yourself up, because as you begin to align yourself with the clock in the sky, and just to make sure you're preserving your oil during that particular time of the month where you see your signs show up, it'll help you greatly, so you won't struggle during those times. You can just kind of see yourself grow a little bit faster, because that means you got control over yourself, over your lower nature, right? Okay, we're gonna talk about it, y'all. Okay, we just looked at a 40-day fast that Jesus went on to prepare to confront. We just looked at a 40-day fast that Jesus went on to prepare to confront the devil's temptations. But there are several ways to fast. The one I have found to be the most practical and effective for the person carrying on in today's busy society is the common 3-day fast. This can be done in one of two ways. If you can't get away somewhere and just pray because of your schedule, I recommend that you go on a juice fast using mild juices such as grape or apple juice. And I would say preferably they should be fresh pressed. If you have a juice or a presser, or juice it. If you absolutely can't get that, try to go buy one that's freshly juiced or freshly pressed. I would really try to stay away from store-bought juices, right? But if that's all you have, then work with what you got. Work with what you got until you can get better, right? Okay. I recommend that you go on, if you can't get away somewhere and just pray because of your schedule, I recommend that you go on a juice fast using mild juices such as grape or apple juice. And let me tell you why. Okay. Um, you should use fresh juice because it's the natural sugars. When you get the store-bought juices, they add stuff to it, which causes the body to react in a different way. Right? So they tell, and this is not medical advice. I'm not giving you all medical advice. You need to go seek your own personal medical practitioner about these things, right? Okay. So, but they tell diabetics, like not to eat like a lot of natural fruits and stuff. But not everybody, but holistic doctors will tell you that's probably one of the best things for you, because it's not that the the sweet stuff that's been processed and pre-packaged, right? The sugars and natural fruits act in the body a completely different way than what processed sugars and sweeteners and all the other stuff does, because it's designed to make the body thrive. It's the natural source of the sugars, and if you're depleted somewhere, depending on what you put in your mouth, you can restore what's lacking in your body, right? So you should look into that a little bit more, because I had issues with my blood sugar for um, a a period of time, right? And I even had to go to a point where I was pricking my finger and all that stuff, and I was like, I'm sick of this crap. I ain't doing this. I'm not going down this road, right? And I just decided to take control of my health and not let the doctors tell me what to do. I took wisdom, but I did more research, and I shifted myself over to the holistic doctors and a more natural way of living and restoring my body through food. Let food be thy medicine, right? I ain't fooling around with the pharmaceutical drugs. If you can't get away somewhere just to pray because of your schedule, I recommend that you go on a juice fast using mild juices such as grape or apple juice. During that time, pray as much as you can. But if you can get away, I suggest you go on a total consecrated fast of just water, filtered or distilled, available at most supermarkets. If you aren't familiar with fasting and want to go on more than a 3-day fast, I recommend a series of shorter periods of fasting. For example, you could fast 3 days a week for 3 weeks straight. For that time period, stick to fresh vegetables, fruits, and salads, staying away from heavy meats and breads. Then, when your time of fasting is over, you can go back to those foods if you desire. I wouldn't recommend doing that, although some people do. But especially when you come off a longer fast and you go back to eating like the way you did, especially if you were overdoing it with meats, you can throw your whole system into you can literally destroy your system. Some people have, and this is not to scare you, some people have come off long fasts and not thinking, or what, they weren't educated, and some people have actually clogged themselves up and died. It's rare, but it happens. And if they don't die, they start having digestive problems and stuff because they weren't educated in what they're doing, right? And it's something simple to understand. I shared two medical doctors with you, but I'm gonna share I talked about the fasting group that I'm a part of um before. It's called a Healthy Alternative with Chris James, and y'all probably heard of him, but I'll share their group. I think it's a really good resource. You got people in that group that's fasting for all different types of reasons. Most of them are fasting for weight loss. Some of them are fasting um, to clear up health issues, and they do different types of fast. But the predominant fast that they do and they educate you about is the water fast, and how it is one of the fastest avenues to healing. How it restores. So people think, oh, well, water fast, you might need to take minerals. No, you really don't. And I learned that from actual holistic doctors through my years of testing different things. Because sometimes when you're doing a water fast and you start adding stuff, you may be adding too much or too little or something, to whereas if you just strictly do water, your body will figure it out, and it'll begin to produce, it'll begin to get rid of things that it doesn't need. Just the water alone allows the machine to begin to figure out what's going on with itself, and it'll begin to identify and begin to fix, it'll begin to triage the emergencies in your body and what's going on, and it's going to handle the most dire one first, and the body figures that out. It's friggin' amazing, right? Sometimes we may be going on fast for weight loss, and weight loss is a byproduct of fasting anyway. But it really shouldn't, I mean, unless you got some medical issues and you need to go have surgery or something, the losing weight part really shouldn't be the focus for real. You should really understand the journey, understand what's happening inside of your body, right? So it's really helpful to understand this information even when you're going to fast for spiritual reasons, right? Because if you're super spiritual and you decide to go on a 3-day water fast, and you don't know that the body begins to detox after about 16 hours, you're gonna start getting headaches and just different things as the body detox, and you're gonna think the devil is attacking you and don't want you to fast, right? Don't be dumb. We're trying to unspookify everything for you, right? We unspookify stuff with proper information, right? So if you know these things are coming, you can better prepare for it. And you can also lessen the detox period if you actually prepare for a water fast. If you're going to do a water fast, it's good to prepare about 7 to 14 days ahead of time by cutting out all the processed food, all the meats, the dairy and stuff, and kind of going to a fresh fruits and veggies, right? Or you can even do juice. So you can start with fresh fruits and veggies and then transition to do juice, then transition to water, right? Because during that time you will have already started the detoxing process while still getting some of the nutrients that the food, if you're eating fresh fruits and veggies, that the food can provide to your body to help it heal, right? But if you want to begin fasting just with fruits and veggies and herbs and stuff, I would recommend Yaki Awaken. There's ones that I go to for straight water fast. They are masters at their craft, right? So I got water fasting masters, which I shared with you, and the nutritional fasting masters. I would say Yaki Awaken and Dr. Sabi, right? But I think Yaki has surpassed Dr. Sabi, and I only say that surpass, maybe not surpass him in his wisdom yet, but surpass him in the way that he gets his wisdom out, how he's using technology and graphics and social media to get it done. So he's becoming well known, but he was also trained, he learned and he studied under Dr. Sabi as well. Right, so he just kind of took the baton and he's keeping it going. So whereas Dr. Sabi, it's hard to really get a lot of Dr. Sabi stuff because it's an older generation and he didn't have a lot, although you see YouTube videos, but some of his videos are old and you can tell they've been recorded with phones of lesser quality. Like we looking at stuff today with the technology we have today. It's like, oh my gosh, what was this? Did you use your phone to record this from a TV that was playing a VHS? That's how Dr. Say a lot of his stuff looks. You can hear it. Some of the sound quality is not that good, but his children, they've tried to remaster some of those things so you can actually hear the lesson and put the information out. But you can find Yaki gives you way more information and he breaks it down with the graphics and what's happening with the body. So I would say learn from both or whoever you can learn from, right? But I'm giving you the references. And another master herbalist is Master Herbalist Patrick Delves, and he is over in um I was about to say Barbados. Lisa, not Lisa, Lynn, but he is over Honduras. I'm sorry, yeah. Same place, Dr. Sabi. He's over in Honduras. But him as well, and he's on social media. But Yaki Granada, he in Granada. Okay, maybe I'm getting them mixed up. Dr. Sabi was Honduras. Okay, so but I think I mentioned Yaki a lot simply because the amount of information and how he has it packaged so well where you can find it. He would be like, if I had to give you one person to go to, like if you needed something that I say go to Yaki, right? The other ones are absolutely amazing, but the information and understanding you would get and the resources and how he break it down, I'd say go to Yaki because there's more information there. And the information that you get from him will lead you back to some of the things that Dr. Saban, some of the older ones did. He comprises everything. He's a master at his craft, and they work right. So, and all of these things to make sure we stand on the correct spiritual path, right? We just have to have some understanding in certain things. That's why it takes time. It takes time for the mind to develop and begin to understand. But if you understand these different pieces about the health and the body, it'll help you in your journey to reach the master or to get back to Yah, right? Because I sure will. Patrick, um, I will. I'll post the name. Everybody that I'm talking about, I'll post I'll post their website and I'll post their YouTube page. Yeah. And you can take it from there, right? But this is other people. I'm just saying those who I've come across and products I've personally used, like health products, like I got the 3 bitters that I'm working on now, right? And if you're having any kind of health problems, it'll help in the fasting and detoxing process. That I'm telling you, it's amazing stuff. So I share with y'all things that I use and I personally know, right? But depending on what you've done with your body and the chemistry you got going on inside of it, it will clean it up. It may go a little bit faster, may take a little longer. That's what I'm saying. You should get involved with your own health, right? And find out what's going on, find out how the body works, which is why over this next year, as even while we're praying in tongues, we're going to be doing a lot of body focused things, right? Showing you how it operates on a physical plane, but how it's also affected by the spiritual, right? And some people don't know that to be true, but I know it to be true. So whether you're using the word chakras or you're using medical terms, think about different things that you do that affect you spiritually, right? So an easy one is alcoholics or people who drink a lot, right? Not only you're taking in spirits, they call it you hard liquor, you're taking in spirits, right? Because it messes with your mentally, your personality. You begin to act like somebody else. But also it goes in and it messes up your liver. Without using all the medical terms, it goes in, it messes up your liver. But you'll also notice that a lot of people who are who drink alcohol, they have anger problems, right? And I can tell you have a dirty liver. Just let me spend a little bit of time with you and figure it out. I can begin to look at you. If I know a little bit about your life and what you do, I can tell you. It's like pinpointing and understanding which chakra is out of alignment, right? You'll notice when alcohol, if you ever watch the process of somebody getting clean, as they're cleaning their liver, they'll go through detoxification. Yeah, they'll go through detoxification, but you'll notice once they get purified, excuse me, the anger issues go away, right? People with dirty livers are normally most of the time really angry because it affects different things in the body, which go up and affects the brain, affects the pineal gland. All this, the land of milk and honey, all up here, right? The promised land. It affects all of those things, which is why we gotta get control of the tenants that's currently residing in the land. We gotta kick them out. Anger, malice, all these things. Those are the tenants that are currently residing in the promised land where they shouldn't be, right? Yahuwah saying we ain't gonna drive them all out at once. It would overwhelm you, but we're gonna drive them out little by little. We're gonna grow. We're gonna go through the chakras. Every bit of land you're gonna overcome. You gotta overcome the land a bit at a time, right? Same thing, same story, just different characters, different scenario, but the same principles are there. Okay, so yes, you're welcome. Who was that? You're welcome, Rita. You I'll wait. Yes, so I'll share those resources. Okay. If you aren't familiar with fasting and want to go on more than a 3-day fast, I recommend a series of shorter periods of fasting. For example, you could fast 3 days a week for 3 weeks straight. For that time period, stick to fresh vegetables, fruits, and salads, staying away from heavy meats and breads. Then, when your time of fasting is over, you can go back to those foods if you desire. Eventually, you may want to go on a more extended fast, especially if you are dealing with some kind of stronghold in your flesh realm, mind, emotions, or body that you want to shut down and mortify for good. And here's one. Here's one. You see the people that keep popping in here, posting these porn links. Hold on, I'm gonna remove this one, but I'm gonna address it just a little bit. But they're posting links in here that are leading you to porn sites, right? And the reason why, all those who have wrenches, if you show up and you see it, if you don't get it first, I'll get it. I'll go ahead and delete it. But I don't want this being a distraction for people in here. I know it's probably meant to be a distraction from me, but we'll take and use what Satan has meant for my bad for our good, right? Don't click on these links. They're porn links. People, some oh, okay. Hold on. Okay. I'm sorry. It blacked my screen out because I reported it as porn. Okay. There are a lot of people, especially in the church, um, that addiction is real for them, right? And that's not something, granted, I can't control everything, but some people are really dealing with that, and they don't know how to break it, right? But let me tell you, one of the fastest way, may not be fast, but it will mortify the deeds of the flesh. Water fasting will help drive that out of you, right? It's going to help you gain some discipline. It's going to help you to gain some self-control. And when you're trying to defeat that, when you're trying to defeat that, when you're trying to kick that tenant out your land, right? Because that one has got to go. That will keep you locked. That one will keep you locked in Egypt, so to speak, right? It'll keep you down on the lower level. And if you can't get your sexual nature under control, you're gonna spill out all that chrism oil and you're gonna die. Right? Whether it is your mind is taken, like sexual sin will drive you in so many different areas. It will literally kill you spiritually, then it will kill you physically, right? And medically, that can be proven. Once we begin to learn a little bit more about that oil that's released in the body, when that cerebral spinal fluid is drying up, y'all, when it's drying up, that's when a lot of sickness and stuff can begin to come in, right? And some people get so far down the line that there is no returning for them, meaning they have used up every single drop of that oil that Yah has given to light their lamps, right? They used it up, and there's no the light has been completely put out for this cycle, and they're no more, right? So, and that's when, like I said, once we really begin to understand about the oil in the body, you're going to understand why the world is so sex crazed and being pushed towards this. Because remember, think about the Torah. Israel can make sure I say this right. Israel can Nobody can curse Israel. Israel can only curse themselves. Why? Y'all remember why? Think about the story with Balaam and Balak, right? Remember the king called him, he said curse him, he said no, and y'all got a hold of him, he said you can't do no more, no less. First of all, don't even go, right? But he started being swayed by money, and he went, and so every time he went to curse him, nothing but blessing came out of his mouth until Yahuwah got a hold of him, and he pretty much broke it down. He said no, nobody can curse Israel. Israel can really only curse themselves, and they only curse themselves. There's only one way where Israel can curse themselves. What is that? Everybody should know it by now. By turning away from Torah, right? And if you understand Torah, what it is keeping to the commands, right? Keeping away from anger, malice, hate, all these things, everything that throws the chakras out of alignment, right? Stay away from those things. That's how Israel curses herself. That's how we curse ourselves. That's how we put ourselves into bondage, right? By not keeping those things under control. So pornography is I mean, it's like I say in the New Testament, there are some sins that lead to death, and there are some that don't lead to death, right? Those ones that lead to death, you're gonna have to uproot. This kind does not come out except for by prayer and fasting, right? Those things, if you're having those type of strongholds, whether it's drug addiction, sex addictions, pornography, masturbation, all of them things that fall in line with the sexual sins, right? You need to not just pray, but you need to be fasting, right? And you're gonna probably need to work yourself up to a water fast. You may not be able to start and just go into it, but some people have the determination. I'm sick of this, I just can't do it no more, and they jump right into it, and they're successful because their determination, their reasoning on why they needed to do it this way gave them the strength to carry it through and be delivered during that time period. You may have to work yourself up with smaller fasts and get right into it, but you literally, to stay free from that, you're going to have to begin to live a lifestyle of fasting, right? You can't just fast, get free, because you're going to run into these things. And if you don't make that a habit and a part of your life, you're going to be pulled back into that, right? And what it say, I'm sure y'all, and I'm using New Testament because it's easy to remember. You're probably familiar with it. When the spirit has been cast out of house, right, it goes away into dry places. Then it's going to come back. It's going to come back to that same house, seeing if he can get back in. He's going to go and look. And if that house has been swept clean and there are no new tenants living there, i.e. Torah, the words of Yah, keeping the commands, if those haven't been set in that house and made the foundation of the house and fill that house with light, that spirit is going to go away. Oh, it's still vacant. It's going to go away. And it's going to grab 7 more spirits that's more powerful than it. And they're going to come back and they're going to take up residence in their house. And that last state is going to be worse than the first of that man or that woman. Y'all, that is a true thing, right? It's a story, but that's what happens. And a lot of times when that happens, that last state normally takes you to your grave. It really does. It'll take you to your grave because it's almost like what the church will call demon possession now, right? The tenants have really overrun, and not saying that you can't get free, you can, right? But some people at that point, it's like they don't have the strength to fight anymore, and hopefully nobody's to that point. Hopefully nobody here. If you are, I'm telling you, there is help for you. There is deliverance. You can uncurse yourself, Israel, right? You're gonna have to. It is a must. It is a must. There are no two ways about it. You have to fast. You have to. Bella, cut that down a little bit. Right. And just like men are addicted to porn, women can be addicted to porn too. And it's just as bad. We just hear about the men all the time because the men are getting caught doing things, right? Y'all ever seen, because men, they operate a little bit different, which gets them, I ain't gonna say caught. They should be, right. It's like it's a drug. It's like a drug, and every time you need something harder and harder to get that dopamine release or to bust that nut, so to speak, right? You need something stronger and stronger, and this is how people find themselves into bestiality, right? You need something strong. It's like blood, but it's a real thing, and they don't necessarily think that they're gonna go to that place, right? So you have to be very careful about your eyes, what you see. You got to guard these gates here. And you have to guard these here because there are certain sounds that can trigger things and that will send you off, right? You have to guard every single gate you have, right? Until you get to a point where are you get a little bit of relief, where you can walk, where you can begin to set barriers ahead of time. You got to plan out the places you go where you can't go here. You can't hang out with them. You can't go there. You can't go to permanent eviction, Marie. Cue the pallbearers. I was thinking about that them pallbearers that was dancing with their casket on their show. This is funny. Let me not get sidetracked. Okay, so you I lost my train of thought. Okay, hold on. What was I saying? Um, Oh yeah, you have to be mindful about who you're hanging around. It's certain things you can't watch on TV. You may not be able to go to the beach, especially if the beach you go to is known to have women that wear two-piece bikinis and stuff, right? Certain things that trigger you have to know what your triggers are, right? That's a part of deliverance. You have to know your triggers. Just like anger, you got to know the things that anger you. You got to know you ain't sidetrack me, Marie. You have to know you have to know you. You have to know the things that set you off in everything, whether it's your anger or your curiosity to go in and stuff, the feeling, the itching to go get a little piece, of flesh. And then again, it don't even have to be that. It could be taking pieces of your own flesh, right? Leave it alone. Stop playing with it. You're gonna literally jack it to death. Seriously. I know that sounds funny. Might be a little lewd, right? But when we learn about the bodies, this is some of what I was telling you in the email your response, Marie. The fluids that you lose when you ejaculate or when you have an orgasm, this might sound a little, let me make sure I say this one. There are nutrients. That's how I say it. There are nutrients. This is scientific proof. Y'all can go test on some of this stuff. Just be careful. You don't click on porn sites. But seriously, you have to understand this to understand this. There are nutrients that are found in semen, right? That when men constantly lose it. They it seems like they get dumber. No, that is I'm not trying to disrespect or dishonor any man, right? So, but think about this. There is a on the Simpsons, there is a episode that they did with Homer, right? And they did it. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna share it with y'all so y'all can see. So y'all can get what's actually going on. You have to go check into it, right? This part of the stuff that I'm giving y'all have to go check into some of these things on your own time so y'all can get what I'm saying so you can kind of keep up, right? Okay, let me put Homer. On YouTube, you can find videos of men talking about. It's mostly men that talk about it. They call it Nofap November. Hold on, Nofap. No, like we ain't gonna do no fapping this month for the November for the month of November. Fapping is a code word for masturbation, right? No masturbation November, but they call it Nofap November, right? Because not only are they trying to stop doing this, right? But they realize there are psychological things happening during the sexual process, whether you're engaging in sex with the opposite sex, same sex, or with yourself, right? You're doing it with yourself. Um, you what you're going for is not necessarily the release, but you're after that same thing that has those who are addicted to drugs, right? You're going after that chemical that's released in the brain called dopamine, right? So that's what happens when we have orgasms. There's a dopamine release, there's a chemical that's released inside of the brain that relaxes the body, and it does some other things, but literally essentially that's what you're going for. You're going for that dopamine release, and your route to get there is just different, or your vice to get to that dopamine release is different, right? But you will get that same dopamine release if you learn, yes, Marie, semen retention. You can look up Google semen retention and you will start seeing some of these no fap videos. And I'm explaining the semen retention. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna share this episode with Homer. Hold on. So you can see it in a funny way, but it I think it's a good visual of what happens, right? Men find out that when they retain their semen, but also understand ejaculation, the ejaculation, the feeling of orgasm, and um the tube that the semen is actually ejaculated from comes from two different places, which is why men can be snipped. You can still have sex, but what it does, it stops that semen. Excuse me, it stops the semen from coming out. So men, well, okay, let me explain that better. It doesn't stop the fluid from coming out, right? It doesn't, because they can ejaculate and there'll still be fluid that'll be released. But there is the sperm that's released into that fluid. They cut the route off for the sperm to be released, right? So they can ejaculate, but they'll no longer be able to have babies, so to speak, right? So there is a way, and it's called semen retention, and men have to practice it to where they can engage into the sexual act and they can have an orgasm while still retaining their fluids, right? You probably should go to a man to teach you how to do that. I'm not going to explain this. I'm not going to explain it here, right? But that is a thing. Let's see. I saw a guy on Instagram who deals with health talk about the issue of men having too many orgasms and the nutrients and energy that is lost each time. It was very interesting, but some men don't want to hear it. They don't. It's because they're not taught. If they understood, they would quit wasting their precious fluids, right? Not that you can't have sex, but you can still have a really active sex life, but you have to learn how to retain your fluids, because those nutrients, if retained, which is why the tantric sex, like all of this goes together. You have to understand it because everything goes together, which is why in tantric sex, where you will see like the pictures where there's ancient Egypt, of the sexual act. So you see it in the Hindu, or in India, they have the pictures of the different gods that's engaging into tantric sex. But this is a principle that they're teaching them about semen retention. Remember I told you sex between a married couple or committed relationship. It's like a legal shortcut to access the throne room, so to speak, or to pull information from having to get answers to your prayer. It happens faster because you can bring it's like alchemy. You bring in it's like making a cake, right? Um you bring in the elements or the ingredients together to get a desire in, and tantric sex is a way to get answers a lot faster, right? It's an art, it's a secret to some or whatever, but it's not a secret if you understand what's going on, which is when you understand that, you will understand why at all the lower levels, all this sex craze, all the pornography, all the pedophilia, they're trying to get the kids early, it's attacking the oil that should be filling your lamp. It's attacking the oil that should be filling your lamp. Marie mentioned it. We hadn't got to it, but she mentioned, I'm like, you on the right track to where we're going, Marie. Right? It's telling about the same thing with the parable between the five wise virgins and the five foolish ones. The five wise ones kept that oil, right? They kept them chakras alive. They didn't spill that oil, because when that oil and it can be found in the sexual releases, right? Not just men but also women, right? Women, although it's their fluids that they release upon orgasm is a little less, unless they are a word y'all probably understand, unless they're squirters. That okay, I'm not trying to turn this into a sex class or be uncomfortable here, sound weird, but when women are in the habit of doing that, you release way more than normal. Like, and it's fluid has been tested, but you'll find yourself you'll find yourself depleted as well, because potassium is also found in the sacred secretions, right? And when you're losing a lot of it, your body kind of get tight, right? Go research what happens to the body when you deplete your potassium. You die. If you have potassium deficiency, you are living on borrowed time, right? Which is why some may have experienced it, some may not. If you have you probably experienced it in your earlier days, or let me see. Let me say this. My daughter's sitting right here. She ain't paying attention, but with the sex act, if you are having multiple orgasms and you're not practicing semen retention while you're doing that, you're going to lose those fluids and you're going to end up catching a cramp. Men will, and women will too, right? It's a terrible cramp. It comes out of nowhere, but it should alert you that, hey, Alicia, yep. It will alert you that potassium is low. Potassium is low. And let me tell you something. I know that from personal experience, right? And I didn't understand. And if you try to keep going, oh, just give me a couple minutes, let me stretch. Ugh, this is cramp. You're gonna find yourself in a world of hurt because you think, okay, we're just moving too much, or I just I need to stretch. No, you've lost potassium. You had better stop. You better you better go get you some Gatorade, get you some Pedialyte, some electrolytes, because there's some people. How'd he die? On top of me. People are literally screwing themselves to death. Like people who die, like they have heart attacks or whatever. You're not understanding what you're doing with your body, right? It is literally, you have to be careful. So when you have to be careful. That's why we got to learn a little bit of a few things about the body and what's happening. Audrey, shalom, shalom. So if you've caught a cramp during the act, your potassium is low. Stop. Go get, go get some Gatorade, Pedialyte. Get the color purple. Go get you some ketchup. Keep. If you like, you know what? I'm a stallion. I'm gonna keep going. Well, you need, before you start, have your resources set up on the nightstand or whatever, so you can pause in between each release. You need to replenish yourself. This is why men are ravaging wolves after the act, and they're thirsty because they they normally feel it more than what women do, especially if women are in the habit of orgasming, right? Because it's a lot of women that don't, right? They haven't experienced it, or if they have, they have to bring it on themselves, right? And Lord have mercy if they done found out about the rose, right? Some women might kill themselves, right? Because they realize they thought that their bodies weren't capable of things when their bodies really are, right? They're just ignorant about their bodies, right? So when you understand these things, you can understand why sex is everywhere, right? Because if you're depleting everything that will help you grow spiritually, you are dumb, you're dense, and you can't see the forest for the trees in front of your face. You can't see what's going on. You're being led astray. You're becoming yes men and yes women. The news is saying this. Oh my gosh, did you watch the news? Right? They keep you in a state of flux all the time, right? It keep all your senses dulled down. You can't see spiritually, you can't hear spiritually, you can't pull up, you can't get words from heaven or whatever, because everything is out of alignment. And you have to bring everything back in alignment by cleaning up your life all around, all together. And everything is comprised, which is why it's a journey and it's a process, and you must be patient with your soul, right? Until you reach salvation, right? And it's a process. It's a pretty fun journey once you're walking in understanding. I'm just make sure I keep my resources here, because I'm gonna share all these resources. I'm gonna share the video with Homer, and you will see during this he Homer finds out about semen retention, right? Anybody think about the Simpsons and think about Homer, duh, like you're an idiot, right? Everybody think of when they think of Homer, they think he's an idiot. But this particular episode, he found out about semen retention, and he became the most productive that he's ever been in his life, right? Cleaned up his office, putting on glasses, he's reading, and it shows that. But if you don't understand what's happening, you won't get it, right? You just don't get it. It's a parable hidden in plain sight. So I'm gonna share that. And you ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Remember, Tor is I guess Tor is the middle. The guy said something in there. Let me share. I'm gonna give y'all all these. You got to go look at it, because I'm telling you, when I understood it, I began to see it everywhere, even in the business arena. Yes, babe.
Look, Unreal was. Guess what?
What?
Wait, Unreal was. Unreal was. The wait, what's it called again?
I don't know. What is it called?
This.
Blippy.
No, Mom. I mean, what's this?
Oh, I don't know. It looks like the amusement park, carnival, water slide. I don't know.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah, we went there. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna share the link. Yeah, it is, Miriam. Thank you for sharing that. You're welcome. But by understanding these things, guys, it'll help you kind of just get a hold of life and reality and figure out what's going on with you, because then you can begin to heal yourself from certain addictions. Okay. So also, like I was saying, on Wolf of Wall Street, and you have to be careful, right? Because the Wolf of Wall Street, if you've seen it, it was with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think was it Leonardo DiCaprio? But anyway, I know it's the Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, it was him, but it was also what's the other guy? Anyway, two main characters. He tells him, because they were on Wall Street, and they're high dollar men, right? And you notice high dollar men or high dollar women, they have really, let's say, really rich sex lives, or they're considered to be highly sexed people in leadership positions, right? Think about it, even looking in the church, people who are in leadership positions, they normally have this energy that's attracted to them, and if they don't understand it, it's transmutated in the wrong way, and they begin to destroy themselves, which is why you got all this crap going on in the pulpits, pastors, all the scandals, all these things, because they don't understand what's happening to them, right? And they just give into it in the wrong way, i.e., destroying their own chakras, they're destroying their own oil, they putting them own selves out the game, right? So he told him in Wolf of Wall Street, he said he keep himself on his game by pretty much rubbing one off in the bathroom. He said he rubbed one off. And I'm like, that is misinformation, right? Because people, if they aren't taught, people who are highly sex, their sex drive will be extremely higher, right? But you don't realize that's the force of creativity rising up on the inside of you. And if you don't channel that oil in the right direction, you're just going to deplete it and you're going to go have sex, right? You're just going to go at it, and a couple times a day, few times a day. And that's pretty much what the guy in the Wolf of Wall Street was telling him. He said he in the middle of a big deal or about to do this or whatever, he just going to the bathroom. He told him to do the same thing, go into the stall and rub one off. If he ain't got women around to take care of that for him in his office, he's just going to the bathroom and rub one off himself so he can get back to work, so he can think and think clearly. I'm like, that's a bit of misinformation. Because when you do that, you actually deplete the creativity that you need to be on the top of your game. Because it calls, when you reserve it, you learn how to develop, if you allow it to this next level, right? Where you can channel that energy, and it's like it also pops open that third eye, so to speak. You can transmute that oil all the way up here and cause that creativity to bust open, right? Which is why, like monks, they take this vow of abstinence, right? Now, although you may not need to seclude yourself, but the principle that is shown to you there is that instead of rubbing one off or getting one off with the ladies, they take it and they're taking that same sexual energy and they're learning how to control it, right? It's that genie in a bottle, right? You can see it everywhere, y'all. And when you call that genie the right way, when you bring it up, that genie will literally grant you wishes that will come true, or it will cause creativity to come up that will benefit you, right? So you have to control your oils. Don't just be having sex out here all willy-nilly, y'all, because you're going to burn up the oil on the inside of you that it's the source of life, the source of creativity, right? And when you do release it, it's because you're bringing a child into the world, right? That's the only time you should release it, when you've planned to bring another child in the world. But by going through these months of regeneration, by practicing this and holding on to your oil, you will actually put out a better product. When you have a child, you will actually, because you've constantly been cleaning your body, thereby purifying your own bloodline, my G. You're purifying your body and your organs, because whatever, when the man needs to give the woman, right? Because children come from men. All these children in the world, they belong to the men. Everything is tail backwards, right? Court systems, when things go wrong, they take the children from the man and give them to the woman. The woman was simply the incubator, right? But the children belong to the men. Those are his seed. Right? So the man, if he's practicing what he needs to practice, and he's cleansing his body, and he's doing this monthly cycle, he's preserving his oil every single month. Shalom, Lisa. He preserving his oil. His body is being regenerated. His body is healing. He has a thriving body. Now, when he decides to reproduce himself, he's giving the woman a top quality seed, and whichever one busts through, because remember, it's a billion of them, probably quadrillion of them, that's racing to the egg, right? But it's the strongest survive, right? And it's top quality, like top shelf sperm that reaches the egg. But you shouldn't just release, you shouldn't give your men, don't give your strength to women. Don't just be out there wasting that this liquid gold. Don't be giving it to, and don't be shooting it up on the ceiling. What's wrong with you? Rubbing it off in socks and Claude have mercy, whatever else you're doing. Stop it. That is liquid gold, people. And better not nobody be swallowing it either, right? That's kind of a little bit too much, but I'm telling you what is happening here. So all type of perverse things is happening, right? And when you don't understand, I remember one of my older pastors, he said, when you don't understand the purpose of a thing, you will abuse it, right? Oh, how this has been abused because we don't understand what it's for. Right? It's literally the elixir of life. It is the path to eternal life. This is how their bodies live long because they practice the process of regeneration. From the time they came, every generation should get better and better. Think about what happened in the garden, y'all. What did y'all say? If you eat from this tree, you will surely die. Right? And we talked about it a little bit the last time we went through it. The word that's found in the ancient manuscripts, not oh that you'll die immediately, right? Because that's what people get it all chopped into. They say I did die, but I didn't die. That's not because that's not what he was talking about, right? It's a slow death. What began to happen? What began to happen to the generations of people as we began to progress? We began to gradually die. And that was the word that Yah said when he said, if you eat from this tree, you will die. You will begin to gradually die. You will begin to lose years off your life, right? That's why they lived so long back in the day. But as the generations went on, the year spans decreased. So now some people ain't even getting past 20 years old, my G. They were promised. 1,000 years. How far have we fallen from the tree of life, people? Right? Stop eating from the tree of life. That chrism, that oil in you is the tree of life. It is the living manna. We're gonna learn about it so we can stay up. We can admire the tree, but we're not gonna eat the fruit of that tree, right? So we can return to eternal life, right? So for the period of time, and these are the days where we can begin to move back into the right direction, right? Back towards the Garden of Eden, so to speak, right? So yeah, I'm gonna share all those resources. Hold on, where we at? Say we was gonna finish today. We got through one little section. Okay, hold on. Eventually, you may want to go on a more extended fast, especially if you're dealing with especially if you're dealing with some kind of stronghold in your flesh realm, mind, emotions, or body that you want to shut down or mortify for good. And that's how we started here, right? So I think this is a good place to stop. He's gonna finish the chapter. Let me highlight this so I know what to pick up tomorrow. Okay, the fast that God chooses is where we'll pick this back up tomorrow. So I get these resources. Y'all got to give me a few minutes to get this stuff. I'm trying to get up a little bit earlier, but there are certain things that I have to take care of first before So I'm trying to make sure I'm being a wise steward of my time and everything, right? Okay, so I hope y'all enjoyed today. I'm gonna share all of those things with you. If you got questions, ask them. If it's not on the live, you can send me an email if you don't want it to be public. The email is always in the description box or under some of the posts. If there's something that I said that you didn't quite understand, just ask me the question. Ask it under the post, because it could be that I didn't explain it clear enough, right? So that's what I'm looking for. Kind of looking for feedback just to make sure my words are clear. Because if they're not, y'all just got to let me know so I can kind of just rephrase it or reword it just to make sure it's clear and it's coming across the right way. All right. So with that being said, beautiful people, thanks for hanging out with me today. It is Tuesday, January the 4th, 2022, day 345 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 1013, we read the book of 4th Maccabees, chapter 2 and chapter 3. And we read just a little bit more, chapter 13, and Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power. All right. So, and I think I probably hit all my things I wanted to say about there was one more thing I wanted to say. Okay. I was gonna say it right after I talked about the Wolf of Wall Street. What he was saying in the Wolf of Wall Street is actually the opposite thing you want to do. You don't want to just rub one off, right? You're losing the oil. But the next thing that I want to tell you about, where I saw it in the business room, you can find the same thing in business books. One of my most favorite books is called Think and Grow Rich, right? In Think and Grow Rich, there is a chapter and it's entitled Sexual Transmutation. Matter of fact, I'm going to share that as well. There's somebody who read the book and actually read that chapter. So I'm going to give you that. It's good to read the book The whole book. The whole book is good, right? And you can see spiritual principles all through that book. It's a brilliant businessman that wrote it, but you can see, like, if you understand these principles and can see it here, you can see it all through the book Think and Grow Rich, right? That's why it's been a number one bestseller since it came out, because the principles in there are evergreen. They reign true in every area you use it, right? It literally, I will go as far as to say, although it's a book on how to help you to develop wealth, it's a book to help you develop develop the mind. Because if this is out of control, the land of milk and honey, the heaven, if this is out of if this is not right, you don't, you're not able to pull the fruits out of it that you need, that will benefit your life and that will cause you to grow spiritually. You're not able to get in, you're not able to get into the land of milk and honey, right? You can't get into heaven, right? You can't get into that source of eternal life to benefit from it. But he talks about it. It's the title. The title is called Sex Transmutation, and he goes into it and he begins to give different examples about different people and how professionals, especially leaders, are. And he used the term highly sexed, right? And he give you a couple different examples about those who had their sex life under control, and those leaders who kind of allowed their sexual nature to get away from them, right? And it has been the destruction of so many would be brilliant businessmen and women, right? And he tells you about, in so many words, it's a good example of one of the couples that he uses in there about women. We can see what he's talking about all through the book of Proverbs, when it's talking about, it's giving the comparisons between prostitutes and wise women, right? There's a one in there where he begins to talk about hooking up with the wrong woman, hooking up with the wrong spouse will deplete you of your oil, right? It'll literally take you to your grave. But if you hook up with the right person, the right woman, it will be a benefit, and you both are gonna grow and benefit. You complement one another. That chapter is friggin' amazing to me. So I'm gonna share that with you as well. So I'm gonna share all of this. And I'm gonna do different posts in the community section. So you're gonna get about 4 or 5 different posts from me today in the community section. And I don't want to put it all in one post and make it too long, because each topic on its own is like a book. So I'm trying to condense my words really, but I want to keep it separately. So when you're going to look for it, and I'm gonna try to use hashtags, that way you'll be able to find it. You'll find the hashtag, or you can just scroll and you'll find it. I put the topic at the top so it's easy to find. All right, y'all. So yeah, that's what I want to say. I wanted to tell you also about the chapter of sexual transmutation, because I want to share that with you, and it'll help you. And I'm sharing all these things with you to help us along this journey while we're praying and fasting, because all of these things you're gonna have to master. It seems like a lot, but it's not really. Once you begin to understand, don't try and do it all at once. Take one topic and learn about it, right? Learn about it, then move to the next. Multitasking, you can multitask in some things, but some things you should focus, because when you focus, it it'll you'll see growth faster by focusing. And when you got it, then you can move to the next thing and get it, so you're not scattered, right? So, but I'm gonna share these things, but it's really just a couple things. The praying and the fasting, being able to control yourself. These would be great tools and resources to look at, to see some of the examples on what it's talking about, so you can be clear. Once you're clear on it, you don't have to spend a lot of time focusing on it, because a lot of time when you study is because you're still trying to understand. So I'm trying to give you good resources where it helps the light come on just a little bit fast. Like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay. Right. When you get to that point, now you have a working knowledge, so you can kind of go and drive the car, right? And you can, if something is wrong, okay, at least you know a couple things you can possibly check. Okay, check engine light. Do I need gas? Is the check engine light on, or is the gas light on? Certain things that you would know to check, like surface things that'll kind of keep you going, so you can do a little bit of maintenance on your own. Those things you can handle on your own. You can put gas in your car. You can, change out filters and fuses. Those are things that you can do. So I'm trying to keep you aware of the things that you can do before you actually have to take it in a shop. If you keep the maintenance up, you never have to go put it in the shop for a major overhaul and a repair. But some of us coming in here need to go right to the emergency room, need to go right into the shop, because it's just some repairing things that needs to be done. And by getting into the deeper information, especially with like the pornography and stuff and how it literally attacks the brain. That's like it's kind of helping you with that major overhaul surgery in the shop so you can understand what's happening so we can fix it, so we can move on, right? Okay. All right, I know that was a lot, but I'm trying to condense everything. All right, beautiful people, that's it. Let's go ahead and do the blessing. It is a great book, reader. I didn't read that. I heard about that book. I remember when I first joined the military, I was riding on a plane. Me and James hadn't got married yet. Bella, pause that for a second. And you come over here. Me and James hadn't gotten married yet, but we had already had Elijah. And I had joined the military, got out of boot camp, and I was flying back home, back here to Virginia. I joined from Illinois, but my duty station was back here in Virginia, which is my home, which is where I was born. So they transferred. They gave me orders here. Hold on. Hold on, Sudie. Pause. They gave me orders here, and on the plane, there was a gentleman that sat beside me and Elijah. Pretty nice older gentleman. And so he's just kind of keeping small talk and everything. And when we were sitting up there, he said, "I'm gonna give you 2 books," and he said, "I want you," he said, "don't ever forget these 2 books." He said, "Go find them." He said, "Read them." He said, "If you study them, make them a well life." He said, "You will have a good life, you and your son." Right? I said, "Okay." And the 2 books was then he wrote. I still got that little slip of paper that this man wrote to me in 1998. I keep it in my wallet. It's called. He wrote up there, Think and Grow Rich, and then it was 2. It's 2 type. Well, it's still the same thing, but it's Think and Grow Rich, the original one. But there's also the Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice, which is it's using the different examples and a leadership from African Americans and different Black people, whatever. I have both of them, and I read through both of them multiple times. They're both on Audible. You can find them both Audible on YouTube as well. But that one, he said, Think and Grow Rich. And this second one he wrote, I have been looking for from the day he gave it to me, and I cannot find it. I'm like, okay, well, when it's time for it, it's gonna come up. Somebody gonna have it. Maybe it's out of print or whatever. But it's called In Order to Get the Fruit, You Must Go Out on a Limb. Right? That was just the title he gave me. It didn't have an author. And I've been looking for it. Every so often it'll come to me and I'll go looking for it, So, but I'll know what it is when I find it. But if y'all ever heard of it, help a sister out, right? Okay, so all right, beautiful people, that's it. Let's go ahead and do this blessing. Okay, you got that pause? All right, what you doing, girl? Okay, scoot over here. You want to get up here with this whole little blanket? Sheesh. All right, y'all. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with the hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out, and I will chat with y'all tomorrow. Be looking for them resources.
Mom, why am I shaking in this slip?
Shalom, Jen. Shalom, Lisa. Everybody. Okay, move this so you can see that.
Wait, Mom, what about?
Okay, put it back. How you gonna see it? You done covered up the button. Okay, let's see if. Oh, you got it. Okay. Oh, you gotta move it now. Oh, I'm gonna share that clip from Book of Eli too.